Hi, I'm Maya. My parents said I'd never be as successful as my sister Rachel. They whispered that my military service was just me running away from real responsibility, that I'd never amount to anything in the business world like she had. I wasn't supposed to hear them on that conference call last December, discussing my limitations with Rachel while planning her promotion party. But when Forbes called to tell me I'd made their 30 under 30 list for my veteran-focused tech startup, their excuses became absolutely pathetic. Preparing and narrating this type of story took us long efforts and hard work. So if you are enjoying the story, please consider subscribing to our channel. Before we dive in, let me ask you something. Have you ever had family members who saw your potential as a threat to someone else's shine? Where are you listening from? Tonight? Drop it in the comments and tell me. What would you do if you discovered your own parents were actively sabotaging your career behind closed doors? Because that's exactly what I uncovered, and my response changed everything. Let's begin. The morning started like any other Tuesday in my small apartment in Portland, Oregon. Rain drummed against the windows while I reviewed pitch decks for potential investors. My startup, VetBridge Solutions, had been gaining momentum for 8 months, connecting military veterans with corporate mentorship opportunities and job placements. The work felt meaningful, necessary even, but building a company from scratch meant 18-hour days and surviving on instant coffee and determination. My phone buzzed with a text from my mother, Sandra. Rachel got the senior partnership at Morrison & Associates. Family dinner Sunday to celebrate. Please try to dress appropriately this time. I stared at the message, feeling that familiar knot in my stomach. Rachel, my younger sister by 3 years, had always been the golden child. Straight A's, law school at 22, fast-tracked through one of Seattle's most prestigious firms. Meanwhile, I'd enlisted in the Army at 18, served 2 tours in Afghanistan as a communications specialist, and only started college at 25 using my GI Bill benefits. The apartment felt smaller suddenly, walls pressing in with the weight of constant comparison. I walked to the kitchen, stepping over the boxes of VetBridge promotional materials stacked near the door. The coffee maker gurgled to life as I opened my laptop, checking the metrics dashboard that had become my morning ritual. User registrations were up 12% from last week. 3 major corporations had expressed serious interest in our enterprise package. Yet here I was, still feeling like the family disappointment. My neighbor's dog barked incessantly from the unit above, a constant reminder that my successful lifestyle consisted of thin walls and questionable heating. I'd moved here after completing my MBA at Portland State, choosing affordability over prestige. Rachel lived in a downtown Seattle high-rise with floor-to-ceiling windows and a view of Elliott Bay. Her Instagram stories showcased wine tastings and networking events, while mine featured late-night coding sessions and veteran meetups at coffee shops. The contrast wasn't lost on me, especially during family gatherings where every conversation somehow circled back to Rachel's latest achievement. Last Christmas, she'd announced her engagement to Marcus, a fellow attorney with connections. Throughout the Pacific Northwest legal community, Mom had cried actual tears of joy. When I'd mentioned VetBridge's first major client signing, Dad had nodded politely before asking Rachel about her wedding venue options. I pulled up my email, scanning through investor correspondence and partnership inquiries. One message made me pause, sent from an address I didn't recognize with the subject line, Reference Request, Maya Chen, VetBridge Solutions. The sender identified himself as James Morrison from Morrison & Associates, requesting information about my background and business acumen for what he described as due diligence purposes. Strange, considering I'd never applied for anything requiring legal services, especially not from Rachel's firm. The morning routine continued with a video, call to my business partner and fellow veteran, Carlos Martinez. We'd met during our MBA program, bonding over shared experiences of civilian transition struggles and a mutual frustration with existing veteran support systems. Carlos handled operations while I focused on business development and investor relations. Our partnership worked because we understood each other's drive to prove wrong everyone who'd written off veterans as damaged goods unsuitable for corporate success. "Morning, Maya." Carlos appeared on screen from his home office in Sacramento. "Ready for the Peterson Group presentation tomorrow?" I nodded, pulling up our slide deck. The Peterson Group represented our biggest potential investor yet, a venture capital firm specializing in social impact startups. Landing their backing would mean expanding beyond the Pacific Northwest, hiring additional staff, and possibly achieving the kind of success that couldn't be dismissed or minimized by family members who viewed military service as career detour rather than leadership training. We spent an hour refining our pitch, focusing on metrics that demonstrated VetBridge's market potential. Veteran unemployment remained higher than national averages, but companies actively seeking veteran talent struggled with effective recruitment and retention strategies. Our platform solved both problems, creating value for veterans and employers, while generating sustainable revenue through subscription fees and placement commissions. After the call, I returned to inbox management, deleting promotional emails and responding to veteran inquiries about our services. One message stood out, sent from a Gmail address associated with someone named Patricia Williams. She'd heard about VetBridge through her nephew, a Marine veteran who'd found employment through our platform. Patricia worked in corporate communications, she explained, and wondered if I'd be interested in discussing potential partnership opportunities with her company. These kinds of messages had become more frequent lately, unsolicited interest from people who'd witnessed VetBridge's impact firsthand. Each inquiry felt like validation, proof that we were building something meaningful rather than just another startup chasing trendy social causes. Veterans deserved better than charity-based support systems. They needed professional networks, mentorship opportunities, and connections to careers that utilized their unique skill sets. I drafted a response to Patricia, suggesting a brief phone conversation to explore potential collaboration. Professional networking had become second nature, a skill developed through necessity rather than natural inclination. Military training emphasized clear communication and strategic thinking, but civilian business culture required different types of relationship building. I'd learned to navigate investor meetings, networking events, and client presentations with the same methodical approach I'd once applied to military operations. The apartment's heating system kicked in with a mechanical wheeze, reminding me that success still felt fragile, temporary. Rachel's career progression followed predictable patterns: law school, associate position, promotion track, partnership consideration. My path looked chaotic by comparison: military service, delayed education, startup risk-taking, uncertain outcomes. Family conversations often centered on stability versus adventure, as if my choices represented reckless gambling rather than calculated career strategy. My phone rang unexpectedly, displaying my father's contact information. David Chen rarely called during business hours, preferring text messages or scheduled family conversations. I answered cautiously, wondering if something had happened to Mom, or if this related to Sunday's celebration dinner. "Maya, quick question." Dad's voice carried his usual tone of practiced patience. "Rachel mentioned you might know someone in the tech industry who could advise her firm on digital marketing strategies. They're expanding their online presence." I paused, processing the irony. Rachel's firm wanted tech expertise, but rather than consulting me directly, they'd asked her to tap my network for free advice. "I could probably help with that myself, Dad. VetBridge's marketing strategy has been pretty successful." Silence stretched across the line before he responded. "Well, they're looking for someone with more traditional corporate experience. You understand?" I understood perfectly. Military background plus startup environment equals unqualified for serious business consultation, despite demonstrable results and growing industry recognition. The conversation ended with promises to connect Rachel with appropriate contacts, Another instance of my expertise being acknowledged indirectly while I remained invisible as a viable resource. These interactions accumulated over time, each one reinforcing the family narrative that positioned Rachel as the reliable success story while I remained the well-meaning but ultimately impractical sister. Evening approached with typical Pacific Northwest gloom, rain transitioning from gentle drizzle to steady downpour. I ordered takeout from the Thai restaurant downstairs, their green curry becoming comfort food during particularly stressful periods. The apartment felt peaceful in the lamplight, boxes of promotional materials transformed into evidence of ambition rather than clutter. Tomorrow's Peterson Group presentation represented more than just potential funding. It symbolized validation for every veteran who'd been told their military experience didn't translate to civilian success. Every entrepreneur who'd chosen impact over immediate profit. Every woman who'd been underestimated in male-dominated industries. Success wasn't guaranteed, but the opportunity alone felt significant. My laptop displayed VetBridge's latest user statistics, numbers that told stories of lives changed through meaningful employment connections. Former Army medics working in healthcare technology, Navy logistics specialists joining supply chain companies, Air Force communications experts building cybersecurity careers. Each placement validated our mission while generating revenue that proved social impact could be financially sustainable. The rain continued its steady rhythm against the windows, a soundtrack that had become synonymous with late-night work sessions and strategic planning. Portland's weather suited my temperament, dramatic but not overwhelming, persistent but not oppressive. Unlike Seattle's polished corporate atmosphere, Portland embraced authenticity, making space for unconventional success stories and alternative career paths. Sunday's dinner loomed ahead, another opportunity for subtle comparisons and well-meaning advice about stability and traditional career progression. Rachel's partnership announcement would dominate conversation, as it should. Her achievement deserved recognition and celebration. What bothered me wasn't her success, but the assumption that only one type of success mattered, that corporate hierarchies represented the sole measure of professional accomplishment. I closed the laptop and prepared for tomorrow's presentation, wondering if the Peterson Group would see VetBridge's potential or dismiss it as another feel-good startup without sustainable business fundamentals. Either way, I'd learned that external validation mattered less than internal conviction, that building something meaningful required persistence regardless of family opinions or industry skepticism. The evening settled into familiar quiet, broken only by rain and distant traffic sounds. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, potential opportunities, and continued progress toward goals that felt increasingly achievable despite ongoing family doubts about my chosen path. Wednesday morning arrived with unexpected sunshine breaking through Portland's perpetual cloud cover. I stood in line at Veterans Roast, the coffee shop where I held informal mentoring sessions twice a week. The owner, Tony Vasquez, had lost his left leg in Iraq and opened the cafe using his disability benefits and a small business loan specifically, designed for veteran entrepreneurs. His success story gave me hope during the early days of building VetBridge, when rejection emails from investors outnumbered interested responses 10-1. "Maya, your usual?" Tony called from behind the espresso machine, already preparing my double-shot Americano with an extra pump of vanilla. The routine had developed over 18 months of regular visits, during which I'd watched him transform a struggling storefront into the neighborhood's most popular gathering spot for local veterans and their families. At my corner table, 3 veterans waited for our weekly career strategy session. Jennifer Walsh, former Navy intelligence analyst trying to transition into cybersecurity consulting. Marcus Thompson, Army logistics coordinator seeking supply chain management positions. Sarah Kim, Air Force radar technician exploring opportunities in aerospace engineering. Each brought unique skills and experiences that civilian employers consistently undervalued or misunderstood. All right, team. I opened my laptop and pulled up the shared document where we tracked their job search progress. Jennifer, how did The interview with Cascade Security go? She grimaced, shaking her head. They loved my technical qualifications, but seemed concerned about my ability to work in a collaborative environment. Apparently, military training makes us too rigid for creative problem-solving. The familiar frustration surfaced in her voice, an echo of conversations I'd had countless times with veterans facing identical stereotypes. Civilian employers claimed they wanted to hire veterans for their discipline and leadership qualities, but often held unconscious biases about military culture that sabotaged hiring decisions. VetBridge existed specifically to address these disconnects through education and strategic matchmaking. Sarah, what about the Boeing subsidiary interview? She brightened considerably. Much better. The hiring manager is actually a Marine veteran, so she understood my background immediately. They're interested in my radar systems experience for their new satellite communication project. Progress, finally. Companies with veteran leadership consistently demonstrated better hiring outcomes, understanding that military experience enhanced rather than limited professional capability. My phone buzzed with a calendar reminder about lunch with Emma Rodriguez, my former college roommate who now worked as a marketing director for a sustainable fashion company. Emma had become one of my closest civilian friends, someone who understood the entrepreneurial struggle without the added complexity of military to civilian transition. Our monthly lunches provided essential perspective, reminding me that career challenges weren't unique to veterans. After the mentoring session, I walked 12 blocks to meet Emma at Pine Street Market, a converted warehouse space filled with local food vendors and communal seating. She waved from a table near the windows, her signature bright red lipstick visible from across the crowded space. Emma had always possessed the kind of confidence I envied, moving through professional situations with natural ease while I carefully calculated each interaction. "Maya, you look tired. Late night working on the Peterson presentation?" She hugged me warmly, immediately noticing the slight shadows under my eyes that concealer couldn't quite hide. "Tell me everything. Are they as intimidating as their reputation suggests?" We ordered lunch from competing vendors, a tradition that allowed us to sample different cuisines while catching up on our respective career developments. Emma chose Korean barbecue while I went with Mediterranean, our plates meeting in the middle of the table as we settled into familiar conversation patterns. The Peterson group meeting went better than expected, I admitted, feeling cautious optimism for the first time in weeks. They asked tough questions about scalability and revenue projections, but they seemed genuinely interested in our mission. "Carlos thinks we have a 60% chance of securing their investment." Emma raised her eyebrows appreciatively. 60% from Carlos is basically a guarantee. He's more pessimistic than you are, which is saying something. She was right. Carlos approached business development with military-level risk assessment, rarely expressing confidence unless he felt certain about outcomes. "There's something else," I continued, stabbing at my Greek salad while organizing my thoughts. "I keep getting weird inquiries about my background and business qualifications. Different people asking similar questions, like they're conducting some kind of informal investigation." Emma paused mid-bite, her expression shifting to concern. "What kind of questions? Professional references or something more personal?" I described the email from James Morrison and the mysterious reference request, watching her marketing-trained mind analyze the information for patterns. "That's definitely not normal," she concluded. "Legitimate business inquiries usually come with clear context and specific objectives. This sounds more like someone's fishing for information without revealing their agenda." The observation made me uncomfortable, though I couldn't articulate exactly why. Business networking often involved indirect approaches and relationship building strategies, but these inquiries felt different somehow. More calculated, as if someone was building a case rather than exploring opportunities. "Speaking of family," Emma transitioned smoothly, knowing my tendency to avoid discussing personal relationships during stressful periods. "How are your parents handling your startup success? Still comparing you to Rachel every chance they get?" The question hit closer to home than I'd expected. Sunday is Rachel's partnership celebration dinner. Mom specifically asked me to dress appropriately, as if I might show up in combat boots and camouflage. Emma laughed, but I could see sympathy in her eyes. She'd witnessed enough family gatherings to understand the dynamic. You know what I think? Emma leaned forward conspiratorially. Your parents are threatened by your independence. Rachel's success fits their expectations perfectly. Predictable career progression, prestigious employer, traditional relationship milestones. Your path makes them question whether they understand success at all. Her analysis rang true, though acknowledging it felt like admitting weakness. Military training emphasized adaptability and resilience, but family relationships operated by different rules entirely. I couldn't strategize my way out of feeling like a disappointment, couldn't earn approval through superior performance when the metrics themselves were different. We finished lunch discussing Emma's latest marketing campaign, a welcome distraction from career anxiety and family dynamics. Her company was launching a line of workwear designed specifically for women in trades and technical fields, using sustainable materials and ethical manufacturing practices. The project excited her because it addressed real market gaps while supporting social causes she cared about. You should consider corporate partnerships with companies that hire a lot of women veterans, she suggested as we prepared to leave. Your platform could help them find qualified candidates while supporting veterans transitioning into non-traditional careers. The suggestion sparked immediate interest. Women veterans faced additional challenges in civilian job markets, often encountering both military stereotypes and gender bias simultaneously. VetBridge had successfully placed several women in technical and leadership roles, but we hadn't specifically marketed those capabilities to employers seeking to improve gender diversity. Walking back to my apartment, I called Carlos to discuss Emma's partnership idea. He answered from his car, driving between client meetings in Sacramento's business district. Women veteran recruitment partnerships, he repeated thoughtfully. That could differentiate us significantly in the market. Most veteran placement services focus primarily on male candidates because that's the demographic majority. We spent 15 minutes outlining potential partnership structures and target companies before Carlos had to end the call for his next meeting. The conversation left me energized, reminded of why VetBridge mattered beyond personal achievement or family validation. We were solving real problems for people who deserved better opportunities than society typically provided. My apartment building's lobby felt particularly dim after the afternoon sunshine, its fluorescent lighting harsh against aged wallpaper and worn carpeting. The mailbox held the usual collection of bills, promotional materials, and a thick envelope bearing the logo of Portland State University's Alumni Association. Inside, an invitation to their annual Entrepreneur Recognition Ceremony, honoring recent graduates who'd launched successful businesses. The invitation mentioned VetBridge specifically, describing our platform as an innovative solution addressing critical workforce development challenges while supporting veteran transition success. Someone at my alma mater had been tracking our progress, recognizing the company's potential impact despite its relatively recent launch. I climbed 3 flights of stairs to my apartment, envelope in hand, feeling grateful for external validation that didn't depend on family approval or investor funding. Academic institutions understood long-term thinking and social impact in ways that purely profit-driven organizations sometimes missed. Being recognized by Portland State felt meaningful, even if the ceremony itself would probably consist of awkward networking and rubber chicken dinners. Inside my apartment, I found another surprise waiting. A voicemail from Dr. Patricia Williams, the woman who'd emailed about potential partnership opportunities. Her company, Meridian Technologies, had reviewed VetBridge's platform and wanted to schedule a formal presentation about incorporating our services into their veteran recruitment strategy. Meridian Technologies was a mid-sized defense contractor specializing in communications systems and cybersecurity solutions. They employed significant numbers of veterans but struggled with retention and career development programs. Partnership with a company like Meridian could provide stable revenue while demonstrating VetBridge's value to larger corporate clients. I returned Dr. Williams's call immediately, reaching her office in suburban Denver. Her voice carried the crisp professionalism of someone accustomed to managing complex projects and tight deadlines. Ms. Chen, thank you for calling back so quickly. I've been impressed by VetBridge's approach to veteran placement and career development. Our HR department believes your platform could significantly improve our recruitment outcomes. We scheduled a video presentation for the following week, giving me time to prepare materials specifically focused on defense contractor needs and veteran retention challenges. Meridian represented exactly the kind of corporate client VetBridge needed to achieve sustainable growth and broader industry recognition. After ending the call, I updated our client prospect database and sent Carlos a summary of the conversation. His response came back within minutes, enthusiastic about Meridian's potential and suggesting we develop a specialized presentation highlighting our success with technical and security-focused placements. The day felt productive, filled with forward momentum and genuine progress toward business objectives. Tomorrow would bring new challenges and opportunities, but tonight I allowed myself to feel cautiously optimistic about VetBridge's trajectory and my own professional future. Evening shadows stretched across my apartment as I prepared dinner, a simple pasta dish with vegetables from the farmer's market downstairs. The routine felt peaceful after a day of meetings and phone calls, providing time to process information and plan next steps without external pressure or distractions. My laptop displayed the latest platform metrics, numbers that told positive, stories about user engagement and placement success rates. Veterans were finding meaningful employment through our connections, while employers discovered talented candidates they might otherwise have overlooked. The impact felt real and measurable, regardless of whether my family understood or appreciated the work involved. Sunday's celebration dinner for Rachel approached like a storm system on the horizon, inevitable but not necessarily destructive. I would attend, offer congratulations, and resist the temptation to discuss VetBridge's recent victories unless specifically asked. Family gatherings worked better when I managed expectations carefully and avoided seeking validation that rarely came. The rain had resumed its familiar pattern against the windows, a soundtrack that had become synonymous with late-night planning sessions and strategic thinking. Portland's weather suited my temperament and work style, providing consistency without monotony. Unlike Seattle's corporate culture, Portland embraced unconventional success stories and alternative career paths that prioritized impact over status. Sunday arrived with deceptive beauty, crisp October air, and golden leaves that made Seattle look like a postcard advertising Pacific Northwest charm. I drove north on I-5, watching familiar landmarks pass by while mentally preparing for 4 hours of careful conversation and strategic silence. Rachel's partnership celebration dinner would unfold according to predictable patterns. Mom orchestrating conversations to highlight Rachel's achievements. Dad offering business wisdom that somehow never applied to my entrepreneurial ventures. And everyone dancing around the uncomfortable reality that I'd chosen a completely different definition of success. The restaurant Mom had selected occupied the top floor of a downtown Seattle high-rise, its floor-to-ceiling windows showcasing Elliott Bay and the Olympic Mountains beyond. Morton's Steakhouse epitomized the kind of establishment where successful lawyers celebrated career milestones, where 7-course meals cost more than most people's weekly grocery budgets. I'd changed clothes 3 times before leaving Portland, finally settling on a navy blazer and understated jewelry that might pass inspection without appearing to try too hard. Rachel arrived 20 minutes late, her entrance perfectly timed for maximum impact. She looked radiant in a burgundy dress that probably cost more than my monthly rent. Marcus beside her in a tailored suit that screamed expensive taste and established income. They moved through the restaurant like they owned it, greeting the hostess by name and accepting congratulations from other diners who recognized Rachel from legal community events. Maya. Rachel's embrace felt genuine, though I noticed her quick assessment of my outfit and understated appearance. I'm so glad you could make it. Marcus was just saying he hopes to meet more of my family now that we're getting married. Marcus extended his hand with the practiced charm of someone accustomed to networking events and client development. Rachel talks about you constantly. The sister who went into the military and now runs some kind of non-profit organization? The description stung in its casual dismissal, reducing 8 years of service and a growing business to vague charitable work. VetBridge is actually a for-profit company, I corrected gently. We help veterans find meaningful employment in corporate environments while helping companies access qualified talent they might otherwise overlook. Marcus nodded politely, his attention already shifting to the wine list and dinner options. Mom and Dad arrived precisely on time, their coordinated outfits suggesting careful planning for this special occasion. Mom wore the pearl necklace Dad had given her for their 25th anniversary, while Dad sported a navy tie that matched his daughter's color scheme perfectly. They moved with the confident efficiency of people comfortable in expensive restaurants, ordering wine without consulting prices and settling into conversation that flowed around Rachel's recent accomplishments. The partnership ceremony is scheduled for November 15th, Rachel announced as our appetizers arrived. Morrison & Associates is planning a reception for all the firm's clients and partners. It should be quite the celebration. Mom's eyes shone with pride as she listened to details about the event planning, guest lists, and media coverage from legal industry publications. Patricia Morrison herself will be introducing Rachel during the ceremony, Dad added, his voice carrying satisfaction that one of his daughters had achieved recognition from Seattle's legal establishment. 28 years old and already making partner at one of the region's most prestigious firms. We couldn't be prouder. The conversation continued along these lines throughout the first course, each detail of Rachel's achievement receiving enthusiastic discussion while I smiled appropriately and offered genuine congratulations. Her success was impressive and deserved recognition. What bothered me wasn't her accomplishment, but the implicit assumption that only certain types of success warranted family pride. Maya, how's your little company doing? Mom asked during a brief lull in celebration planning. The phrasing made VetBridge sound like a hobby project rather than a business that had placed over 200 veterans in meaningful employment during the past year. We're actually growing faster than projected, I replied carefully. Last month, we signed 3 new corporate clients and received interest from a major defense contractor about expanding our services nationwide. The information was accurate, but delivered in corporate speak that might earn their attention, if not their approval. Dad leaned forward with sudden interest. Defense contractors? That could be lucrative if you position yourself correctly. Have you considered pivoting toward government contracts instead of this veteran placement angle? There's real money in federal consulting work. His suggestion revealed fundamental misunderstanding about VetBridge's mission and market positioning. We weren't interested in becoming another government contractor competing for bureaucratic projects. Our value proposition depended on bridging military and civilian cultures through authentic understanding of both environments. The veteran placement focus is actually our competitive advantage, I explained. Companies struggle to recruit and retain qualified veterans because they don't understand military culture or how to translate military experience into civilian job requirements. We solve that problem while creating sustainable career opportunities for people who've served our country. Rachel nodded approvingly, though her expression suggested polite interest rather than genuine engagement. That sounds meaningful, Maya. Very admirable work. The tone carried subtle condescension, as if my career represented noble charity work rather than serious business development. Marcus interjected with wine-influenced confidence. The legal field has similar challenges integrating military experience. We see resumes from JAG officers all the time, but they often struggle with the transition to private practice, different expectations, different client relationship dynamics. His observation was actually insightful, representing the kind of industry-specific knowledge that could inform VetBridge's service expansion. However, the conversation quickly shifted back to Rachel's partnership and wedding planning, leaving no space to explore potential collaboration or shared professional interests. "The wedding planning has been incredible," Rachel continued, pulling out her phone to show engagement photos and venue options. "We're looking at June for the ceremony, probably somewhere on the peninsula with mountain views. Marcus's family has connections with several exclusive locations that might work perfectly." Mom and Dad absorbed every detail with enthusiasm that felt genuine and complete. Guest list considerations, catering options, flower arrangements, photographer selection. Each decision received careful attention and family input. I found myself wondering what it would feel like to have career achievements discussed with the same level of interest and investment. "Maya, you'll be my maid of honor, of course," Rachel announced suddenly, as if the decision had been predetermined, without consultation. I can't imagine anyone else standing beside me on the most important day of my life. The invitation felt generous and excluding simultaneously, acknowledging my importance while assuming my availability and enthusiasm. "I'd be honored," I replied honestly, meaning it despite the complicated emotions surrounding family dynamics. Rachel and I had shared a childhood filled with genuine affection and mutual support, even if adult relationships had become more complex and competitive. Dad raised his wine glass for the evening's first formal toast. To Rachel, whose hard work and dedication have earned her recognition in one of Seattle's most competitive professional environments. "We're proud of the woman you've become and excited to watch your continued success." Everyone clinked glasses and sipped expensive wine while I processed the careful phrasing of his congratulations. Hard work and dedication, as if those qualities were unique to Rachel's achievements rather than common to both daughters' career paths. Military service and entrepreneurship required identical commitment levels, but apparently only traditional professional success merited acknowledgement. The main course arrived with theatrical presentation, servers describing preparation methods and ingredient sourcing with practiced expertise. Rachel and Marcus had ordered the most expensive items on the menu, their celebration extending to culinary indulgence that matched the evening's overall tone of accomplished luxury. "Morrison & Associates is sending Rachel to the National Legal Conference in Chicago next month," Mom continued, apparently having memorized every detail of her daughter's professional calendar. "She'll be presenting on corporate liability issues to an audience of senior partners from firms across the country." The achievement was genuinely impressive, representing recognition from national legal organizations and positioning Rachel for even greater career advancement. I offered sincere congratulations while noting the contrast with my own recent professional developments, which would likely receive polite acknowledgement rather than enthusiastic celebration. "What about you, Maya?" Dad asked, apparently remembering that conversations should include both daughters. "Any exciting developments with your business?" The question felt obligatory rather than genuinely curious, asked because etiquette demanded equal attention rather than authentic interest. "Actually, yes," I replied, deciding to share news about the Peterson Group presentation and Meridian Technologies partnership opportunity. "We're in final discussions with a major venture capital firm about significant expansion funding, and several Fortune 500 companies have expressed interest in our enterprise services." The information was factually accurate and represented substantial business progress, but the family's response felt muted compared to their enthusiasm for Rachel's legal career updates. Nods and murmurs of approval, but no follow-up questions or requests for additional details. Marcus attempted to bridge the gap with wine-influenced diplomacy. "That's fantastic, Maya. The nonprofit sector needs more innovative thinking and sustainable business models." His comment revealed continued misunderstanding about VetBridge's structure and objectives, but the intention seemed supportive. "It's actually a for-profit company," I corrected again, wondering why this distinction seemed impossible for people to remember or understand. We generate revenue through placement fees and corporate subscription services, just like any other business-to-business service provider. Rachel laughed lightly, as if my correction was unnecessarily pedantic. Profit, non-profit, the important thing is that you're helping people. That's what matters, right? Her response dismissed the business complexity and strategic planning required to build sustainable veteran employment solutions. The conversation drifted toward wedding planning and family vacation possibilities, safe topics that allowed everyone to participate without navigating professional jealousy or competitive dynamics. I listened and contributed appropriately while processing the evening's familiar patterns of dismissal and minimization. Dessert arrived with coffee and after-dinner drinks, extending the celebration into territory that felt increasingly artificial. Rachel's achievements deserved recognition and family support, but the evening's structure seemed designed to reinforce hierarchies rather than celebrate multiple types of success. As we prepared to leave, Mom pulled me aside with maternal concern that felt both genuine and strategic. "Maya, honey, we worry about you sometimes. This business venture seems so uncertain, so risky. Rachel's career provides stability and security that will support her family for decades." Her words carried the weight of years of similar conversations, each one positioned as loving guidance while reinforcing doubts about my chosen path. Military service had been characterized as running away from responsibility. College attendance at 25 had been described as delayed rather than strategic. Entrepreneurship was presented as gambling rather than calculated risk-taking. "I appreciate your concern, Mom," I replied carefully. "But VetBridge is actually performing better than most startups at this stage. We have sustainable revenue, growing client base, and interest from major investors. It's not as risky as it might appear from the outside." She hugged me warmly, her affection genuine despite fundamental disagreement about career choices. "We just want you to be happy, sweetheart. And successful like Rachel." The comparison felt automatic, as if success could only be measured against her achievements rather than evaluated independently. Driving back to Portland through evening darkness, I reflected on the dinner's familiar dynamics and my own complicated responses to family expectations. Rachel's partnership was impressive and worthy of celebration. My parents' pride in her achievements was natural and appropriate. What felt problematic was the implicit assumption that only traditional career paths deserved enthusiastic support, that entrepreneurship and military service represented deviations from real success, rather than alternative routes toward meaningful professional accomplishment. 3 days after Rachel's celebration dinner, I found myself sitting in her downtown Seattle office, waiting for her to finish a client call while I borrowed her laptop to review some partnership documents. She'd invited me to lunch, a rare midweek gesture that felt like genuine sister time rather than family obligation. Morrison & Associates occupied 2 floors of a glass tower overlooking Pioneer Square, its reception area decorated with awards and photographs documenting the firm's century-long presence in Seattle's legal community. Rachel had stepped out to handle an urgent matter with a corporate client, leaving me alone in her corner office with its view of Elliott Bay and walls lined with law books that probably cost more than my monthly revenue. Her laptop sat open on the mahogany desk, screensaver displaying a slideshow of vacation photos from her recent trip to Napa Valley with Marcus. I needed to access my Google Drive account to review the Meridian Technologies presentation materials before our afternoon video call. The laptop's keyboard felt unfamiliar under my fingers as I navigated to Gmail, intending to log into my account through the web browser. But when I typed the first letters of my email address, the autocomplete function revealed something unexpected. Maya Chen VetBridge appeared in the drop-down menu, as if someone had recently searched for that exact phrase using this computer. Curiosity overrode caution as I clicked on the suggested search term. The browser opened to a comprehensive Google search about me and my company, with multiple tabs still open from previous sessions. Someone had been researching VetBridge extensively, browsing our website, reading news articles about veteran entrepreneurship, and examining my LinkedIn profile with the thoroughness of a background investigation. One tab displayed a Forbes article about emerging social impact startups in the Pacific Northwest, featuring VetBridge prominently in their analysis of veteran-focused business solutions. Another showed the Better Business Bureau page confirming our A+ rating and customer satisfaction scores. A third revealed a detailed analysis of our business model from a venture capital blog, complete with projected growth rates and market penetration estimates. The depth of research suggested someone was building a comprehensive understanding of VetBridge's operations, success metrics, and industry reputation. But why would Rachel need this information? She'd never expressed professional interest in my company beyond polite family conversation, and her legal practice focused on corporate liability rather than employment or veterans' affairs. I scrolled through the browser history, discovering searches that made my stomach tighten with growing unease. Maya Chen Military Service Record, VetBridge Funding Sources, Portland State University MBA Program Reputation, Veteran Entrepreneur Success Rates. Each query revealed systematic investigation into my background and business credentials, as if someone was building a case rather than satisfying casual curiosity. Then I found the email thread that explained everything. Rachel's Gmail account was logged in automatically, displaying correspondence that made the research suddenly make sense. The sender was James Morrison, senior partner at Morrison & Associates and Rachel's direct supervisor. The subject line read, "Due Diligence, Chen Family Business Assessment." My hands trembled slightly as I opened the email chain, reading messages that revealed a conversation I was never supposed to see. James Morrison had been conducting background research on VetBridge at Rachel's request, investigating whether my company represented a legitimate business opportunity or potential embarrassment for the Morrison family name. "Rachel, per your request, I've completed preliminary research on your sister's veteran placement company." Morrison's initial email began. "The business appears more substantial than initially anticipated, with genuine revenue streams and corporate clients including several Fortune 500 companies. However, the veteran focus limits scalability compared to traditional staffing agencies." Rachel's response revealed motivations that cut deeper than professional curiosity. "Jim, I appreciate the research. My parents are concerned that Maya's business ventures reflect poorly on our family's reputation for stability and traditional success. They asked me to investigate whether VetBridge is a legitimate company or another one of Maya's impractical projects that will eventually require family financial support." The words hit like physical blows, each sentence revealing layers of family conspiracy I'd never suspected. My parents hadn't just dismissed my achievements during casual conversation. They'd actively recruited Rachel to investigate my business, seeking evidence that VetBridge was destined to fail and require their intervention. Morrison's follow-up email contained detailed analysis that would have impressed any investor. Upon further investigation, VetBridge demonstrates strong fundamentals with sustainable revenue growth, positive client feedback, and expanding market presence. Maya Chen's military background and MBA credentials suggest competent leadership, while the company's social impact focus aligns with current corporate diversity initiatives. But Rachel's response revealed the true purpose of this investigation. "That's helpful, Jim. My parents will be relieved to know Maya's business isn't an immediate liability. However, they're still concerned about long-term viability compared to traditional career paths. The military to entrepreneurship trajectory seems inherently unstable, regardless of current performance metrics." I stared at the screen, processing the implications of what I'd discovered. My family hadn't just been casually dismissive of my achievements. They'd been actively investigating my business, looking for evidence to confirm their assumptions about military veterans and entrepreneurship. Rachel had used her professional connections to conduct corporate-level due diligence on her own sister, treating my life's work like a potential liability requiring management. The email thread continued, with additional research requests and findings. Morrison had investigated my personal finances, educational background, and business partnerships with the thoroughness of a merger and acquisition analysis. He'd contacted Portland State University to verify my MBA completion, reviewed public records related to VetBridge's incorporation, and even researched Carlos Martinez to ensure my business partner wasn't some kind of liability. Maya appears financially stable with no outstanding debts or legal issues, one email reported. Her business partner served honorably in the Army and completed his MBA from the same program. VetBridge's corporate structure is appropriately established with proper legal documentation and tax compliance. Rachel's responses revealed growing frustration with findings that contradicted family expectations. Jim, while I appreciate the thoroughness, my parents were hoping for more definitive concerns about Maya's business trajectory. They're convinced that veteran-focused companies are inherently limited in growth potential compared to traditional professional services. The final email in the thread was dated just 2 days ago, shortly before Rachel's invitation to lunch. Morrison had provided a comprehensive summary of his investigation, concluding that VetBridge represented a legitimate and potentially successful business venture with strong fundamentals and growth prospects. Rachel, based on extensive research, I must recommend that your family reconsider their assessment of Maya's entrepreneurial venture, Morrison wrote. VetBridge demonstrates characteristics of a successful startup with sustainable competitive advantages and expanding market opportunities. Your sister's military background and business education appear to be assets rather than limitations in her chosen field. Rachel's final response in the thread revealed the conversation I was never supposed to see. Thanks, Jim. I'll share this with my parents, though I suspect they'll find ways to minimize the positive findings. Maya has always been the family. Disappointment and changing that narrative might be difficult regardless of objective evidence. The family disappointment. The words echoed in my mind as I sat in Rachel's office, staring at email evidence of systematic investigation and predetermined conclusions about my worth. They hadn't just been casually dismissive. They'd been actively building a case against my choices, seeking professional validation for assumptions they'd already made about military service and entrepreneurship. I heard Rachel's voice in the hallway, talking to a colleague about client deadlines and partnership responsibilities. Her footsteps approached the office door as I quickly closed the email thread and cleared the browser history, returning the laptop to its original state before she could discover my accidental investigation of her investigation. Sorry about that? Rachel entered the office with apologetic energy. Corporate law never stops, even for sister lunch dates. Ready to head downstairs to that new sushi place? Her smile appeared genuine, carrying no hint of the correspondence I'd just discovered or the family conspiracy it revealed. I nodded and gathered my things, maintaining normal conversation while processing the implications of what I'd learned. My family hadn't just been unsupportive. They'd been actively working to confirm their negative expectations, using professional resources to investigate my business like a potential threat requiring containment. Preparing and narrating this type of story took us long efforts and hard work. So if you are enjoying the story, please consider subscribing to our channel. As we walked toward the elevator, Rachel chatted about restaurant recommendations and weekend plans, her demeanor suggesting complete ignorance of my discovery. She had no idea that I now understood the true nature of family conversations about my career, the systematic investigation of my business, and the predetermined conclusions about my value as a daughter and sister. The elevator descended toward street level while I maintained appropriate responses to Rachel's casual conversation, my mind racing with questions about next steps and strategic responses. I now possessed information that reframed every family interaction, every dismissive comment, and every subtle comparison between my achievements and Rachel's traditional success. The lunch ahead would require careful performance, concealing my discovery while gathering additional information about family dynamics I'd never fully understood. But for the first time in years, I held the advantage of knowledge that others didn't realize I possessed. The investigation had revealed more than they'd intended, providing clarity about motivations and assumptions that had shaped family relationships for decades. The drive back to Portland passed in a haze of forced normalcy, lunch conversation, replaying in my mind alongside the devastating email revelations I'd discovered just hours earlier. Rachel had chosen an expensive sushi restaurant where she'd ordered for both of us, selecting premium selections while casually mentioning how proud the family was of my little business venture. Every compliment now carried hidden meaning, each supportive comment feeling like performance art designed to mask systematic investigation and predetermined dismissal. I maintained appropriate responses throughout our meal, asking about her partnership, ceremony plans, and wedding preparations while internally processing the scope of family conspiracy I'd uncovered. James Morrison's comprehensive research report had been thorough enough to impress any venture capitalist. Yet Rachel and my parents had somehow found ways to minimize positive findings that contradicted their assumptions about military veterans and entrepreneurship. Once safely inside my apartment, I poured a glass of wine and opened my laptop with methodical precision. If my family wanted to conduct investigations, I would gather my own evidence. But unlike their secretive approach designed to confirm negative assumptions, my research would document objective facts about business performance, industry recognition, and professional achievements they'd either ignored or actively dismissed. I started with VetBridge's financial records, organizing 18 months of revenue data into clear spreadsheets that demonstrated consistent growth and sustainable business fundamentals. Monthly subscription fees from corporate clients had increased 47% over the past quarter, while placement commission revenues showed steady expansion as more veterans found meaningful employment through our platform. The numbers told a story of success that transcended family opinions or traditional career metrics. VetBridge had processed over 3,000 veteran applications, achieving a 72% placement rate with an average salary increase of 38% compared to veterans' previous employment. These weren't vanity metrics designed to impress investors. They represented lives changed and careers launched through strategic matchmaking between military experience and corporate opportunities. I compiled client testimonials from both veterans and employers, documenting impact that extended far beyond profit margins or revenue projections. Jennifer Walsh, the former Navy intelligence analyst I'd mentored at Veterans Roast, had secured a cybersecurity position with a starting salary that exceeded her military pay by $60,000. Marcus Thompson, the Army Logistics Coordinator, now managed supply chain operations for a medical device manufacturer, applying his military experience to life-saving healthcare logistics. Corporate clients provided equally compelling testimonials about VetBridge's value proposition. Cascade Security's CEO had written a detailed LinkedIn post about how our platform had connected them with exceptional talent they wouldn't have found through traditional recruitment channels. Meridian Technologies had specifically requested expanded partnership discussions based on successful placements that exceeded their performance expectations. As I organized this evidence, patterns emerged that revealed the systematic nature of my family's dismissal. They'd focused exclusively on traditional success metrics, prestigious employer names, predictable career progression, social status indicators, while completely ignoring impact, innovation, and entrepreneurial achievement. Military service was characterized as delay rather than leadership training. Startup founding was presented as gambling rather than strategic risk-taking. I opened a new folder on my laptop and labeled it Family Documentation, then began systematically recording interactions that had seemed like casual dismissal, but now appeared to be coordinated strategy. Sunday's dinner conversation, where Dad had suggested pivoting toward government contracts instead of veteran placement services, revealed fundamental misunderstanding about our competitive advantages and market positioning. Mom's concerned comment about business uncertainty and risk had been positioned as maternal worry, but the language mirrored Morrison's initial research questions about VetBridge's long-term viability. Rachel's repeated references to VetBridge as nonprofit or charity work weren't innocent mistakes. They were deliberate mischaracterizations designed to minimize our achievements and market impact. I pulled up my phone and scrolled through recent text message exchanges with family members, screenshotting conversations that demonstrated patterns of subtle undermining and dismissal. Mom's message about dressing appropriately for Rachel's celebration dinner carried implications about my professional image and social status. Dad's questions about my business always included suggestions for alternative approaches that would make VetBridge more conventional and less distinctively focused on veteran needs. The documentation process felt clinical rather than emotional. Military training applied to personal relationship analysis, evidence gathering, pattern recognition, strategic assessment of motivations and objectives. I wasn't building a case for revenge or confrontation. I was seeking clarity about family dynamics that had shaped my self-perception for decades. My laptop displayed multiple browser tabs containing research about my own company, industry recognition, and professional achievements that family members had either ignored or actively investigated through third parties. Portland State University's Alumni magazine had featured VetBridge in their spring issue, highlighting innovative approaches to veteran employment challenges. The Oregon Business Journal had included me in their 40 Under 40 Emerging Leaders list, recognizing both military service and entrepreneurial success. These accomplishments existed in public record, easily discoverable through basic internet searches. Yet family conversations continued to characterize my career as uncertain, risky, and less substantial than Rachel's traditional professional trajectory. The disconnect wasn't accidental or based on lack of information. It was intentional, designed to maintain family hierarchies that positioned Rachel as the successful daughter while I remained the well-meaning but ultimately disappointing sister. I opened my email client and began composing a message to Dr. Patricia Williams at Meridian Technologies, accepting their invitation for a formal partnership presentation. If my family wanted evidence of VetBridge's legitimacy and growth potential, I would provide it through expanding corporate relationships and industry recognition that couldn't be dismissed or minimized. The Peterson Group had scheduled their final investment decision meeting for the following week, representing potential funding that would enable nationwide expansion and additional staff hiring. Their due diligence process had been rigorous, involving financial audits, market analysis, and extensive interviews with existing clients. Unlike my family's investigation, the Peterson Group's research was transparent, professional, and designed to assess actual business potential rather than confirm predetermined assumptions. Carlos called as I finished organizing documentation files, his voice carrying excitement about recent developments in Sacramento. "Maya, you're not going to believe this. 3 more companies reached out today asking about VetBridge partnerships. Word is spreading faster than we anticipated about our placement success rates and veteran retention metrics." I shared my own updates about Meridian Technologies and the Portland State recognition, maintaining focus on business development while processing the emotional weight of family betrayal. Carlos represented everything positive about professional relationships: transparent communication, shared objectives, mutual respect for different backgrounds and perspectives. "There's something else," Carlos continued. "I got a call from a reporter at Forbes asking about veteran entrepreneurship trends and specifically mentioning VetBridge as an example of successful social impact startups. She wants to schedule an interview about our business model and growth projections." Forbes, the magazine that represented ultimate business recognition, validation that transcended family opinions or regional success metrics. A Forbes interview would position VetBridge among nationally recognized companies, demonstrating impact and innovation that couldn't be characterized as regional charity work or uncertain business ventures. "When does she want to schedule the interview?" I asked, already calculating potential timing relative to family gatherings and Rachel's partnership ceremony. "And did she mention how they learned about VetBridge specifically?" Carlos laughed with characteristic optimism. "Apparently, we've been on their radar for months based on industry reports and client testimonials, the veteran entrepreneurship angle is trending in business media, and VetBridge keeps appearing in research about successful social impact companies with strong financial fundamentals. After ending the call, I sat in evening darkness processing the day's discoveries and developments. My family had conducted secret investigations seeking evidence of failure or limitations, while legitimate business media was recognizing VetBridge's success and growth potential. The contrast revealed everything about different approaches to success measurement and family support. Tomorrow would bring new challenges and opportunities, but tonight, I allowed myself to feel something approaching: vindication. Not because external recognition validated my choices, but because I finally understood the true nature of family dynamics that had shaped years of self-doubt and careful performance. I closed the laptop and prepared for tomorrow's business calls, including the Forbes interview that would position VetBridge among nationally recognized companies, regardless of family opinions about military veterans and entrepreneurial career choices. The evidence was clear, the momentum was building, and for the first time in years I felt completely confident about both my professional achievements and personal worth. The Forbes interview was scheduled for Thursday morning, giving me exactly 5 days to prepare materials that would position VetBridge as a nationally significant company rather than a regional nonprofit experiment. I spent Tuesday morning in my apartment, surrounded by printed financial reports, client testimonials, and growth projections that told the story of systematic success my family had somehow missed or actively ignored. Sarah Chen, the Forbes reporter, had requested comprehensive documentation about VetBridge's business model, revenue streams, and social impact metrics. Her preliminary questions revealed sophisticated understanding of veteran employment challenges and startup scaling strategies, suggesting this interview would explore substantive business topics rather than feel-good human interest angles. Organized materials into 3 categories: quantitative performance data, qualitative impact stories, and strategic growth plans. The quantitative section included 18 months of revenue charts showing consistent monthly growth, placement success rates that exceeded industry averages, and client retention metrics that demonstrated sustainable competitive advantages. Veterans placed through VetBridge showed 93% job retention after 12 months, compared to 67% industry averages for veteran employment programs. The qualitative section featured testimonials from both veterans and corporate clients, stories that illustrated VetBridge's unique value proposition. Lieutenant Colonel Patricia Stevens, retired Army logistics officer, had found executive-level supply chain management positions through our platform after struggling with civilian recruiters who couldn't translate her military experience into corporate qualifications. Cascade Security's chief technology officer had written detailed case studies about how VetBridge-placed veterans had improved their cybersecurity protocols and emergency response capabilities. Strategic growth plans included the Meridian Technologies, partnership expansion, Peterson Group investment negotiations, and preliminary discussions with 3 Fortune 500 companies about enterprise-level service contracts. These weren't aspirational projections designed to impress investors. They represented concrete opportunities that would scale VetBridge's impact while generating sustainable revenue growth. Wednesday afternoon, I drove to Seattle for a strategic meeting disguised as family dinner. Mom had called Tuesday evening, suggesting we celebrate my recent business developments with an intimate gathering at their Bellevue home. Her tone carried unusual enthusiasm about my achievements, as if Morrison's research report had somehow shifted family perception of VetBridge's legitimacy and potential. The dinner invitation felt suspicious given typical family interaction patterns, but it provided perfect opportunity to observe reactions and gather additional information about their investigation and conclusions. I would attend with complete knowledge of their secret research, while maintaining the appearance of normal family relationships. I arrived at my parents' house carrying a bottle of wine and printed copies of VetBridge's latest success metrics, materials I'd prepared specifically for this conversation. If they wanted to discuss my business, I would provide comprehensive information that made dismissal or minimization impossible. Dad answered the door with unusual warmth, immediately, asking about my drive from Portland and commenting on how professional I looked in my navy blazer and tailored pants. "Maya, you look like a successful businesswoman," he said, leading me toward the kitchen where Mom was preparing dinner with careful attention to presentation details. "We wanted to celebrate your accomplishments properly," Mom explained, gesturing toward the dining room table set with their good china and crystal glasses. "Rachel told us about your recent business developments, and we realized we haven't been paying enough attention to your success." The conversation felt scripted, as if they'd planned specific talking points based on Morrison's research findings. Their sudden interest in VetBridge coincided perfectly with timeline of Rachel's investigation, suggesting they'd received comprehensive briefings about my company's actual performance and growth potential. Throughout dinner, they asked detailed questions about VetBridge's operations, client relationships, and expansion plans. Dad's inquiries revealed knowledge about defense contractor partnerships and venture capital funding that exceeded casual family interest. Mom's comments about veteran employment challenges demonstrated understanding of market dynamics and competitive positioning that suggested extensive background research. "We've been thinking," Dad said during dessert, his tone carrying the careful diplomacy of someone delivering rehearsed message. "Your business approach is more sophisticated than we initially understood. The veteran focus creates genuine competitive advantages rather than limiting market opportunities." Mom nodded approvingly. "We may have underestimated the business potential of social impact companies. Your military background actually enhances your credibility with both veterans and corporate clients, rather than limiting your professional options." Their admissions felt hollow, scripted responses to information they'd discovered through secret investigation rather than supportive observation of my achievements. They were acknowledging VetBridge's success because professional analysis had confirmed what they'd been unable or unwilling to recognize through direct family interaction. I shared information about the Forbes interview and Peterson Group investment discussions, watching their reactions carefully for signs of genuine pride versus strategic recalibration of family narratives. Their enthusiasm appeared authentic, but calculated, as if they were repositioning themselves relative to my success, rather than celebrating achievements they'd previously dismissed. "Forbes recognition would be incredible for your business, and for our family," Mom said, her pride seemingly genuine despite its recent emergence. "We're so proud of what you've built, Maya. You've always been determined and innovative." The revisionist history felt surreal given years of subtle undermining and comparison to Rachel's traditional success metrics. They were rewriting family narratives based on external validation rather than acknowledging their own limited understanding of different types of professional achievement. As I prepared to leave, Dad handed me a business card for a corporate attorney who specialized in startup legal issues and intellectual property protection, just in case VetBridge continues growing and you need sophisticated legal support, he said, apparently forgetting that I'd been managing complex business legal requirements successfully for 18 months without family guidance or intervention. The evening revealed everything about their conditional support and reactive recognition of my achievements. When they believed VetBridge was destined to fail, they'd investigated and dismissed my efforts. Now that professional analysis confirmed success and growth potential, they were repositioning themselves as supportive family members who'd always believed in my entrepreneurial vision. Thursday morning arrived with crisp November air and the kind of clear skies that made Portland look like a postcard advertising Pacific Northwest entrepreneurial spirit. I sat in my apartment's makeshift office, laptop open to the Zoom meeting room where Sarah Chen from Forbes would join me in 30 minutes for what could be the most important interview of my professional career. My phone buzzed with a text from Rachel. "Maya, Mom told me about your Forbes interview today. So exciting. Can't wait to hear how it goes. Family dinner Sunday to celebrate?" The message felt genuine, though I now understood that family enthusiasm had emerged only after James Morrison's research confirmed VetBridge's legitimacy and growth potential. I'd spent the previous evening organizing talking points that would Position VetBridge among nationally recognized social impact companies while highlighting the unique value proposition that connected military experience with corporate talent needs. The interview would focus on business fundamentals rather than feel-good veteran support narratives, demonstrating that successful social impact startups required sophisticated strategy and sustainable revenue models. Sarah Chen appeared on screen, exactly at 10 o'clock. Her home office suggesting the kind of professional setup that serious business journalists maintained for remote interviews. She'd obviously researched VetBridge extensively, asking detailed questions about our placement success rates, corporate client retention metrics, and competitive advantages in the veteran employment market. What sets VetBridge apart from traditional staffing agencies or nonprofit veteran services? She asked, her tone indicating genuine curiosity about our business model rather than skeptical assessment of social impact claims. I explained our dual value proposition, helping veterans translate military experience into civilian career opportunities, while helping corporations access leadership talent they might otherwise overlook. Unlike charity-based veteran support programs, VetBridge generated sustainable revenue through placement fees and corporate subscription services, creating incentives for long-term success rather than short-term assistance. Your military background obviously informs this work, Sarah continued. How has your own transition experience shaped VetBridge's approach to veteran employment challenges? The question allowed me to discuss military leadership training, strategic planning experience, and cross-cultural communication skills that directly translated to business development and client relationship management. Military service had provided executive-level training in resource management, team leadership, and high-pressure decision-making that enhanced rather than limited my entrepreneurial capabilities. Sarah asked about growth projections and expansion plans, topics that revealed VetBridge's potential for national scaling and increased market impact. The Peterson Group investment discussions, Meridian Technologies partnership, and Fortune 500 client inquiries demonstrated that our business model attracted serious corporate interest rather than charitable support. We're seeing increasing corporate recognition that veteran talent represents untapped competitive advantage, I explained. Companies that successfully integrate veteran employees report improved leadership development, enhanced crisis management, capabilities, and stronger team performance metrics. The interview continued for 45 minutes, covering everything from startup funding challenges to veteran entrepreneurship trends that were reshaping social impact business sectors. Sarah's questions revealed sophisticated understanding of both veteran employment issues and startup scaling strategies, suggesting the resulting article would position VetBridge among serious business success stories rather than inspirational, human interest features. After ending the call, I immediately contacted Carlos to share details about the interview and timeline for article publication. Forbes planned to include VetBridge in their upcoming feature about veteran entrepreneurs who were building successful companies while addressing significant social challenges. This is exactly the kind of recognition that validates everything we've built, Carlos said, his voice carrying excitement about potential impact on business development and client acquisition. Forbes coverage will position us for enterprise-level partnerships and investment opportunities we couldn't access otherwise. I spent the afternoon preparing for Sunday's family dinner, which would now occur after Forbes recognition but before the article's official publication. The timing created perfect opportunity to observe family reactions to national business media validation of my achievements and VetBridge's success. Rachel called Thursday evening to confirm Sunday dinner plans and share her own excitement about my Forbes interview. Maya, this is incredible. I've been telling everyone at the firm about your business success. Jim Morrison is actually impressed by your entrepreneurial achievements and thinks VetBridge represents innovative thinking about veteran employment challenges. Her comment revealed that Morrison had shared his research findings with colleagues at the firm, positioning VetBridge as legitimate business success rather than uncertain family venture. The legal community's recognition felt particularly satisfying. given their initial skepticism about military to entrepreneurship career transitions. Friday brought confirmation that the Forbes article would be published Monday morning, featuring VetBridge prominently in their analysis of veteran entrepreneurs who were building scalable businesses while creating meaningful social impact. The Waintier. Timing meant Sunday's family dinner would occur with knowledge of impending national recognition, but before public revelation of the achievement. I accepted Rachel's dinner invitation with strategic timing in mind. My family would gather expecting to celebrate my Forbes interview as potential future success, unaware that actual recognition had already been confirmed and would be publicly announced within 24 hours of our meal. Saturday evening, I selected my outfit carefully, professional but not overly formal, confident but not arrogant. The navy blazer that had survived family criticism during Rachel's partnership celebration would now accompany me to dinner, where I possessed information about national business recognition that others didn't yet realize existed. Sunday morning brought email confirmation from Sarah Chen that the Forbes article was scheduled for publication at 6 a.m. Pacific Time on Monday, positioning VetBridge among the top veteran-founded companies creating significant business and social impact. The recognition represented validation that transcended family opinions, while demonstrating that military experience enhanced rather than limited entrepreneurial success. As I drove north toward Seattle for what would be our family's most interesting dinner conversation in years, I felt calm anticipation rather than nervous anxiety. For the first time in family gatherings, I held information that would shift relationship dynamics completely, while providing evidence that couldn't be dismissed, minimized, or investigated through third-party research. The afternoon ahead would reveal whether my family's recent support represented genuine recognition of my achievements, or strategic repositioning based on external validation they couldn't ignore or dismiss through traditional metrics of professional success. Sunday dinner unfolded exactly as I'd anticipated, with my parents orchestrating conversation around my Forbes interview while carefully avoiding any mention of Morrison's research or their systematic investigation of VetBridge's legitimacy. The table was set with their finest china, flowers arranged with deliberate elegance, and wine selected to complement what they assumed would be a celebration of potential future success. Rachel arrived with Marcus, both carrying the relaxed confidence of people comfortable in expensive restaurants and family gatherings. They greeted me with enthusiasm that felt genuine, though I now understood their knowledge about my business came from professional investigation rather than supportive family. Observation. Maya, we're so proud of you, Mom began as we settled around the dining room table. A Forbes interview represents incredible recognition for any entrepreneur, especially someone building their first company. We can't wait to hear every detail about how it went. Dad poured wine with ceremonial precision, raising his glass for what appeared to be a carefully planned toast. To Maya, whose determination and business acumen have created opportunities we're just beginning to understand. Your success reflects the kind of innovative thinking our family has always valued. The revisionist history felt surreal given years of subtle dismissal and comparison to Rachel's traditional career progression. They were rewriting family narratives in real time, positioning themselves as supportive parents who'd always recognized my entrepreneurial potential rather than skeptical investigators who'd required professional confirmation of my achievements. Tell us everything about the interview, Rachel urged, leaning forward with apparent genuine interest. What kinds of questions did they ask? How did you present VetBridge's mission and growth potential? I described the conversation with Sarah Chen, emphasizing business fundamentals and market positioning rather than inspirational veteran support narratives. The Forbes reporter had been impressed by our placement success rates, corporate client retention metrics, and sustainable revenue model that demonstrated social impact could generate profitable business outcomes. The article will focus on veteran entrepreneurs who are building scalable companies while addressing significant social challenges, I explained, watching their faces for reactions to information they didn't yet fully understand. VetBridge represents innovative thinking about how military experience translates to business leadership rather than career limitation. Marcus nodded approvingly, his legal training evident in questions about intellectual property protection and competitive advantages. The veteran employment market has tremendous potential for disruption through strategic talent matching and corporate education about military skill translation. Their enthusiasm appeared authentic, though I recognized the calculated nature of support that had emerged only after Morrison's research confirmed VetBridge's legitimacy and growth potential. They were positioning themselves relative to my success rather than celebrating achievements they'd previously dismissed or actively investigated. During the main course, I reached for my phone with deliberate casualness. Actually, there's something I should probably mention about the Forbes article. I opened the email from Sarah Chen that confirmed publication details and timing. The piece is being published tomorrow morning, and it's even better than we initially discussed. I turned my phone screen toward the table, displaying the email subject line. Forbes, 30 under 30 inclusion, VetBridge Solutions featured. The words hung in the air like a revelation that recontextualized everything they'd assumed about my business prospects and national recognition potential. Wait, Rachel said, her voice carrying surprise that seemed genuine rather than calculated. Forbes 30? Under 30? That's not just an interview article. That's one of the most prestigious business recognition lists in the country. Dad set down his wine glass with careful precision, processing implications of recognition that transcended regional success or family celebration. Maya, the 30 under 30 list represents national business media validation. Companies on that list attract enterprise-level investment and partnership opportunities. I nodded calmly, maintaining the appearance of modest success while internally savoring their recalibration of assumptions about my achievements and VetBridge's potential. The article positions VetBridge among the top veteran-founded companies creating significant business and social impact. Apparently, we've been on their radar for months based on our growth metrics and client testimonials. Mom reached for my hand across the table, her excitement appearing genuine despite its recent emergence. This is incredible, Maya. Forbes recognition will open doors we couldn't have imagined. Your business success reflects exactly the kind of innovation and determination we've always admired. The comment revealed everything about conditional family support that emerged only after external validation confirmed achievements they'd been unable or unwilling to recognize through direct observation. They were celebrating my success because prestigious business media had validated what they'd dismissed during years of casual family conversation. There's something else, I continued, watching their faces carefully as I prepared to reveal the depth of my knowledge about their investigation and assumptions. I've been meaning to thank Rachel for her help with business development research. Rachel's expression shifted slightly, uncertainty replacing confident enthusiasm as she processed implications of my comment. I'm not sure what you mean, Maya. I haven't been involved in any research projects related to VetBridge. I maintained direct eye contact while reaching into my purse for printed copies of Morrison's email correspondence that I'd accidentally discovered on her laptop. Actually, James Morrison provided quite comprehensive analysis of VetBridge's business fundamentals and growth potential. His research was remarkably thorough for someone supposedly unfamiliar with veteran employment markets. The silence that followed felt electric, tension building as family members processed unexpected revelation of knowledge they'd assumed would remain secret. Rachel's face flushed slightly while Mom and Dad exchanged glances that confirmed their awareness of the investigation I'd uncovered. I found his email thread on your laptop last week, I explained calmly, placing the printed correspondence on the table between the wine glasses and elegant place settings. Apparently, you were conducting due diligence on your own sister's business, investigating whether VetBridge represented legitimate success or potential family embarrassment. The documents lay between us like evidence in a trial neither side had expected to face. Morrison's research conclusions, Rachel's requests for investigation, and my parents' concerns about military veterans and entrepreneurial career choices all documented in professional correspondence that revealed systematic family conspiracy disguised as casual concern. The silence stretched across the dining room like a fault line opening beneath carefully constructed family narratives. Rachel stared at the printed emails as if they were evidence of a crime she'd forgotten committing, while Mom and Dad exchanged glances that confirmed their involvement in the investigation I'd uncovered. Marcus shifted uncomfortably in his chair, clearly unprepared for family drama that involved his legal colleagues and professional reputation. "Maya, I can explain," Rachel began, her voice carrying the careful tone of someone attempting damage. Control. "The research wasn't meant to be secretive or dismissive. We were just trying to understand your business better, to offer more informed support." I remained calm. My military training applied to strategic conversation management under pressure. "According to Morrison's emails, you characterized me as the family disappointment and expressed hope that the investigation would reveal evidence of business instability or impending failure. That doesn't sound like supportive research." Dad cleared his throat, attempting to regain control of conversation that had shifted beyond his management. "Maya, we may have approached this incorrectly, but our intentions were genuinely concerned about your welfare and long-term security. Entrepreneurship involves significant risks that traditional careers avoid." His explanation revealed the fundamental disconnect between their understanding of business success and the reality of my achievements. They'd viewed VetBridge through the lens of traditional employment metrics, rather than recognizing innovative social impact companies that created sustainable competitive advantages through mission-driven business models. "The investigation wasn't about my welfare," I replied, opening the printed correspondence to specific passages that contradicted their damage control narratives. "Morrison's research was requested because you were concerned that my business ventures reflected poorly on our family's reputation for stability and traditional success." Mom reached for her wine glass with slightly trembling hands, her composed facade beginning to crack under the weight of documented evidence. "We never meant to undermine your achievements, Maya. We just didn't understand the business world you'd entered. Military service and entrepreneurship seemed so different from career paths we could evaluate or support effectively." Rachel attempted to rebuild bridges with professional acknowledgement that felt calculated rather than genuine. "The research actually proved how wrong our assumptions were. Morrison was incredibly impressed by VetBridge's fundamentals and your business acumen. His report completely changed our understanding of what you'd built." I nodded thoughtfully, processing their defensive responses while maintaining strategic advantage through documented evidence and Forbes recognition they hadn't anticipated. Morrison's conclusions were accurate. VetBridge demonstrates strong fundamentals with sustainable revenue growth, positive client feedback, and expanding market presence. What's interesting is that this information was available through public sources and direct family conversation, yet you chose professional investigation over supportive engagement. Marcus finally spoke, his legal training evident in attempts to mediate family conflict that involved his firm and professional relationships. "Maya, I think there may have been miscommunication about research objectives and presentation of findings. Family business discussions can become complicated when different generations have varying comfort levels with entrepreneurial risk." His diplomatic intervention felt hollow, given the specific language documented in Morrison's correspondence about family disappointment and business liability concerns. The investigation hadn't been casual inquiry about entrepreneurial ventures. It had been systematic assessment of whether my career choices represented threats to family reputation and stability. "The Forbes recognition changes everything," Dad said, apparently hoping external validation would resolve family tensions created by secret investigations and predetermined assumptions. "National business media recognition demonstrates that your approach to veteran employment creates legitimate competitive advantages. We're genuinely proud of your achievements." Their pride felt conditional, emerging only after prestigious business validation confirmed what they'd been unable, or unwilling to recognize through direct family observation. Years of subtle dismissal and comparison to Rachel's traditional success metrics had shaped family dynamics that required external authority to shift perception of my professional worth. "I appreciate the recognition," I replied carefully, "but I'm more interested in understanding why family support required professional investigation and third-party validation." Military service provided leadership training that directly translated to business development capabilities. Entrepreneurship involved calculated risks based on market analysis and competitive positioning, not gambling on uncertain ventures. Rachel attempted another approach, her tone shifting toward genuine remorse rather than strategic damage control. "Maya, you're right to be upset. We handled this poorly and allowed our own limitations about non-traditional careers to influence our assessment of your success. The investigation was wrong, and the assumptions behind it were unfair to your achievements." Her acknowledgement felt more authentic than previous explanations, though it revealed the systematic nature of family dismissal that had required Forbes recognition to overcome. They'd needed external validation to shift perception of military experience and entrepreneurial achievement from liability to asset. The dinner continued with significantly altered dynamics, conversation carefully navigating around the revelation that had recontextualized years of family interactions. My Forbes recognition provided context that made their previous dismissal appear short-sighted, while the documented investigation revealed assumptions about my career that couldn't be easily explained or dismissed. As we prepared to leave, Mom hugged me with apparent genuine affection mixed with visible discomfort about the evening's revelations. "We love you, Maya, and we're proud of everything you've accomplished. The Forbes recognition confirms what we should have recognized much earlier about your business success." The apology felt incomplete, acknowledging my achievements while avoiding deeper examination of family dynamics that had shaped years of subtle undermining and comparison to traditional career metrics that didn't apply to innovative social impact companies. Monday morning arrived with the Forbes article going live at exactly 6 a.m. Pacific Time, accompanied by social media notifications that began accumulating before my alarm even sounded. The feature positioned VetBridge prominently within their analysis of veteran entrepreneurs who were reshaping traditional business approaches while creating measurable social impact. My phone buzzed continuously with congratulatory messages, LinkedIn notifications, and interview requests from business journalists across the country. The article's impact exceeded my expectations, generating immediate interest from corporate clients, investors, and industry publications that had previously been unaware of VetBridge's success metrics and growth potential. Sarah Chen had crafted a narrative that emphasized business fundamentals rather than feel-good veteran support stories, positioning our company among serious social impact startups with sustainable competitive advantages. Carlos called before 7 a.m., his voice carrying excitement about opportunities that were already emerging from the Forbes recognition. "Maya, this is incredible. 3 Fortune 500 companies reached out overnight asking about enterprise partnership discussions. The Peterson Group wants to accelerate their investment timeline based on the media coverage." By 9 a.m., my email inbox contained over 200 messages from potential clients, business partners, and media outlets requesting interviews about veteran entrepreneurship trends and VetBridge's innovative approach to military-civilian talent translation. The volume of interest demonstrated that Forbes recognition created opportunities that regional success couldn't access, validating business development strategies that my family had characterized as uncertain or risky. Emma Rodriguez called during her lunch break, having seen the Forbes article shared across multiple social media platforms by mutual contacts in Portland's entrepreneurial community. "Maya, I'm seeing your name everywhere today. The veteran entrepreneur angle is resonating with business leaders who are finally understanding that military experience creates competitive advantages rather than workplace limitations. The recognition felt particularly satisfying because it validated years of strategic positioning and client development that had occurred despite family skepticism rather than because of family support. VetBridge's success reflected systematic business building based on market analysis, competitive differentiation, and sustainable revenue models that created value for both veterans and corporate clients. Around noon, I received an unexpected call from James Morrison himself, Rachel's supervisor who had conducted the family investigation that revealed so much about their assumptions and motivations. His tone carried professional courtesy, mixed with apparent embarrassment about circumstances that had made his research public knowledge. Ms. Chen, I wanted to personally congratulate you on the Forbes recognition and apologize for any confusion about my research activities. He began carefully. The analysis was conducted at family request, but the findings clearly demonstrated VetBridge's impressive business fundamentals and growth potential. His call revealed that Rachel had informed him about Sunday's dinner revelation, creating workplace awkwardness about research that had been intended to remain private family business. Morrison's professional reputation now included assessment of his colleague's sister, an unusual situation that highlighted the intersection of family dynamics and professional relationships. The investigation actually provided valuable education about veteran entrepreneurship and social impact business models, I replied diplomatically. Your research conclusions were accurate about VetBridge's competitive positioning and market opportunities. Morrison seemed relieved by my professional response to what could have been characterized as inappropriate family interference in business. Assessment. The legal community is taking notice of companies like VetBridge that address significant social challenges while generating sustainable revenue. Your approach represents innovative thinking about veteran employment markets. Tuesday. Brought additional validation through industry recognition that extended beyond the Forbes article. The National Veteran Business Development Council invited me to speak at their annual conference about successful military to entrepreneurship transitions. Portland State University's Business School requested a guest lecture series about social impact startup development and veteran leadership applications. Most significantly, Meridian Technologies accelerated their partnership timeline, scheduling an executive presentation for the following week based on Forbes recognition that positioned VetBridge among nationally significant companies rather than regional service providers. Their defense contractor perspective on veteran talent acquisition aligned perfectly with our platform's capabilities and growth objectives. Rachel called Tuesday evening, her voice carrying genuine remorse that felt different from Sunday's defensive. Damage control. Maya, I've been thinking about everything that happened, and I owe you a real apology. The investigation was wrong, and the assumptions behind it were unfair to your achievements and our relationship as sisters. Her acknowledgement represented progress toward honest family conversation about careers, success metrics, and support, systems that had been missing from our relationship for years. I never understood how dismissive our family had become about non-traditional career paths until I saw Morrison's research conclusions and realized how wrong our assumptions were. The Forbes recognition had created space for authentic family, conversation that previous interactions had avoided. My success was no longer debatable or requiring external validation to be recognized. VetBridge's achievements spoke for themselves through metrics and recognition that transcended family opinions about military service and entrepreneurial career choices. Wednesday brought news that would cement the week's trajectory toward complete vindication of my business strategy and career decisions. The Peterson Group confirmed their investment commitment, providing funding that would enable nationwide expansion and additional staff hiring that positioned VetBridge for scaling success beyond regional markets. The investment announcement generated additional media coverage from TechCrunch, Harvard Business Review, and the Wall Street Journal, all focusing on veteran entrepreneurship trends and social impact companies that demonstrated sustainable business models while addressing significant workforce development challenges. By Thursday, my calendar was fully booked with client presentations, investor meetings, and media interviews extending through the end of November. The Forbes recognition had accelerated business development timelines that might otherwise have required months of networking and relationship building to achieve. 3 weeks after the Forbes article publication, I found myself sitting in a Manhattan conference room overlooking Central Park, finalizing partnership agreements with 3 Fortune 500 companies that would expand VetBridge's services to national markets. The Peterson Group investment had closed faster than any deal in their firm's history, providing $8 million in funding that positioned us among the most successful veteran-founded startups in the country. The transformation felt surreal as I reviewed contracts with companies that had initially seemed beyond our reach. Microsoft wanted to integrate VetBridge's platform into their veteran recruitment initiatives. Boeing sought comprehensive partnership for defense contractor talent acquisition. General Electric requested exclusive access to our leadership development programs for transitioning military officers. Carlos joined me via video call from our new Sacramento office, where he was interviewing candidates for expansion positions that would triple our staff size within 6 months. Maya, I just got off the phone with the Department of Veterans Affairs. They want to discuss government partnership opportunities that could impact veteran employment at unprecedented scale. The irony wasn't lost on me that government agencies now sought VetBridge's expertise after years of family suggestions that we should pivot toward traditional government contracting rather than veteran placement services. Our competitive advantage had always been the intersection of military experience and corporate talent needs, exactly the focus that family members had characterized as limiting rather than differentiating. Friday afternoon brought an unexpected visitor to our temporary Manhattan office. Rachel appeared in the lobby, having flown from Seattle specifically to deliver news that she insisted required face-to-face conversation. Her expression carried a mixture of excitement and visible discomfort about information she was about to share. Maya, there's something you need to know about Morrison & Associates, she began, settling into the chair across from my desk. The firm is restructuring their corporate division, and they've offered me the opportunity to lead their new social impact business development initiative. I listened carefully as she explained that the law firm had been impressed by VetBridge's success and wanted to position themselves as legal advisors for social impact startups and veteran-founded companies. The Forbes recognition had apparently convinced senior partners that veteran entrepreneurship represented a growing market with significant business potential. They want me to develop expertise in veteran business law and social impact company representation, Rachel continued, her tone suggesting she understood the ironic nature of this career pivot. Essentially, they're asking me to become the firm's specialist in exactly the kind of business you've been building. The revelation felt like cosmic justice delivered through corporate restructuring. Rachel, who had investigated my business for evidence of instability or family embarrassment, was now being asked to build her legal career around supporting companies like VetBridge. Her traditional partnership track was being redirected toward the veteran entrepreneurship market that our family had dismissed as uncertain and risky. There's more, she added, her discomfort becoming more apparent. Morrison wants me to reach out to you about VetBridge becoming a flagship client for their new practice area. They're hoping to leverage our family relationship and their research about your business to establish credibility in the veteran entrepreneurship legal market. I leaned back in my chair, processing the full-circle nature of developments that had transformed family dynamics in ways I couldn't have anticipated. The investigation that was supposed to reveal my business weaknesses had become the foundation for Rachel's career redirection toward supporting veteran entrepreneurs. What do you think about their proposal? I asked, genuinely curious about her perspective on representing the business she had secretly investigated for signs of failure or family liability. Rachel looked out the window toward Central Park before responding. Honestly, I think it's an incredible opportunity to work with innovative companies that are solving real problems. The research Morrison did about VetBridge opened my eyes to social impact business models I hadn't previously understood or appreciated. Her admission represented acknowledgement that the investigation had educated her about entrepreneurship and veteran business success, rather than confirming predetermined assumptions about military service limitations or startup risks. She was asking to represent the business she had characterized as potentially embarrassing to family reputation. "I'd also like to apologize again for the investigation and everything it represented about our family's support," she continued, her voice carrying genuine remorse. "You were building something incredible while we were looking for evidence of failure. That says more about our limitations than your achievements." The apology felt complete this time, acknowledging both the investigation's inappropriate nature and the family assumptions that had motivated secret research instead of direct support. Rachel was admitting that their assessment had been wrong, not just about business fundamentals, but about military experience, entrepreneurship, and alternative definitions of professional success. That evening, I called my parents to share news about VetBridge's expansion and Rachel's unexpected career pivot toward veteran business law. Their response revealed complete transformation in family narratives about my achievements and career trajectory. "Maya, we're so proud of what you've built," Mom said, her voice carrying emotion that felt genuine rather than calculated. "The Forbes recognition helped us understand that we'd been measuring success too narrowly. Your military service and entrepreneurial vision created opportunities we couldn't have imagined." Dad added his own acknowledgement of previous limitations. "We owe you an apology for not recognizing VetBridge's potential earlier. Military leadership training and startup experience represent exactly the kind of innovative thinking that creates lasting business impact." Their recognition felt earned rather than conditional, based on demonstrated results that couldn't be dismissed or minimized through traditional career comparison. VetBridge's success had forced family reconsideration of assumptions about veteran capabilities and entrepreneurial achievement that had shaped years of subtle undermining and dismissive comments. The conversation ended with genuine family celebration of achievements that no longer required external validation to be recognized or appreciated. Forbes' recognition had created space for honest acknowledgement of success that transcended their limited understanding of non-traditional career paths and social impact business models. 6 months after the Forbes recognition, I stood before 200 veteran entrepreneurs at the National Military Business Conference in Denver, delivering the keynote address about transforming military experience into sustainable business success. The audience included Army Rangers starting cybersecurity companies, Navy veterans launching logistics startups, and Air Force officers building aerospace consulting firms. Each represented proof that military service enhanced, rather than limited, entrepreneurial potential. VetBridge had grown beyond my original vision, now operating in 12 cities with a team of 45 employees, including 15 veterans, who had found their own entrepreneurial calling through our platform. The company had placed over 800 veterans in meaningful careers while helping corporations access leadership talent they might otherwise have overlooked. Our success metrics demonstrated that social impact and profitable business weren't contradictory objectives. The conference's opening reception buzzed with energy from entrepreneurs who understood the unique challenges of translating military experience into civilian business success. I found myself in conversation with Maria Santos, a former Marine intelligence officer whose data analytics company had just secured Series A funding, and David Kim, an Army logistics veteran whose supply chain software was being adopted by major retailers nationwide. "Your Forbes article changed everything for veteran entrepreneurs," Maria said, raising her glass in appreciation. "It shifted the narrative from charity-based veteran support to recognizing military experience as competitive business advantage. That perception change opened doors for all of us." David nodded agreement, adding his own perspective on industry transformation. "Corporate clients take us seriously now because they understand that military leadership training translates directly to executive-level business capabilities. VetBridge helped create that understanding through strategic positioning and measurable results." Their comments reflected broader changes in how business communities viewed veteran entrepreneurship, shifts that had occurred through accumulated success stories rather than charitable goodwill or patriotic sentiment. Military experience was increasingly recognized as executive training that enhanced rather than limited business development capabilities. During my keynote presentation, I shared lessons learned from VetBridge's journey while emphasizing universal principles that applied to any entrepreneur seeking to create meaningful impact through sustainable business models. The military had taught strategic planning, resource optimization, and performance under pressure. Entrepreneurship required identical skills applied to market dynamics and competitive positioning. Success isn't defined by traditional career progression or family expectations, I told the audience, thinking about my own journey from family disappointment to Forbes recognition. Military service provides leadership training that civilian employers desperately need. Your job is to help them understand that value while building companies that create lasting positive change. After the presentation, I was approached by Jennifer Walsh, the former Navy intelligence analyst I had mentored at Veterans Roast over a year ago. She now worked as a cybersecurity executive at a Fortune 500 company, having been promoted twice since VetBridge placed her in her initial civilian role. "Maya, I wanted to thank you for seeing potential when I couldn't see it myself," she said, her confidence reflecting successful career transition that had exceeded her original expectations. The mentoring sessions and job placement changed my life trajectory completely. I'm now leading a team of 20 engineers and developing enterprise security protocols for international clients. Her success story represented thousands of similar transformations that VetBridge had facilitated through strategic talent matching and corporate education about military experience value. Each placement created ripple effects that influenced workplace culture and hiring practices beyond individual career advancement. That evening, I received a text from Rachel with photos from her new office at Morrison & Associates, where she was leading their social impact practice that now represented 12 veteran-founded companies. Her legal specialty had evolved exactly as predicted, building expertise in veteran business law while supporting entrepreneurs who were creating meaningful change through innovative business models. 6 months ago, I was investigating your business for potential family embarrassment, she wrote. Now I'm building my career around supporting companies like VetBridge. The irony isn't lost on me, and I'm grateful for the education about what success actually looks like. Her message reflected genuine transformation in understanding entrepreneurship, military experience, and alternative definitions of professional achievement. The investigation that was supposed to reveal business weaknesses had instead educated her about social impact companies and veteran entrepreneurship potential that traditional legal practice hadn't exposed her to. I walked through downtown Denver as evening lights reflected off glass towers housing corporations that now actively recruited veteran talent through VetBridge partnerships. The city felt different than it had during my early entrepreneurial struggles, not because the environment had changed, but because my position within it had evolved from uncertain startup founder to recognized industry leader. My phone displayed calendar notifications for the following week's activities: congressional testimony about veteran employment legislation, Harvard Business School guest lecture about social impact entrepreneurship, and final negotiations for VetBridge's expansion into European markets. Each opportunity represented validation of business strategy that had once been characterized as risky or uncertain. The hotel room overlooked the Rocky Mountains, their snow-covered peaks visible under clear Colorado skies. I opened my laptop and began writing the annual letter to VetBridge stakeholders, documenting our impact on veteran employment while outlining strategic objectives for continued growth and market expansion. This year, VetBridge demonstrated that military experience creates competitive advantages in business leadership, strategic planning, and crisis management, I wrote. Our success reflects systematic validation of veteran capabilities rather than charitable support for struggling populations. Veterans don't need sympathy. They need opportunities to apply their skills in environments that recognize their value. The letter would be shared with investors, corporate partners, and the veteran entrepreneurship community that had grown around companies like ours. It represented accountability for results while establishing vision for continued impact that extended beyond individual business success. As I finished writing, I realized that the family dynamics that had once felt like insurmountable obstacles had become fuel for creating something larger than personal achievement. Their investigation and dismissal had motivated me to build not just a successful company, but a platform that validated military experience while creating opportunities for thousands of veterans seeking meaningful civilian careers. The next morning, I would fly back to Portland, where VetBridge's headquarters now occupied an entire floor of a downtown office building. But tonight, I felt satisfaction that came from transforming doubt into determination, converting family skepticism into industry transformation that benefited veterans across the country. 1 year later, I received an unexpected package at my office. Inside was a framed copy of the original Forbes article, with a handwritten note from my father. "Maya, we were wrong about everything. Your military service wasn't running away from responsibility. It was preparing you to take on more than we ever imagined." VetBridge isn't just a business success. It's proof that some of us needed to expand our definition of what success looks like. Love, Dad. That same week, the Department of Defense announced VetBridge as their primary partner for transitioning service members into civilian careers. The girl they once called the family disappointment was now helping shape national veteran employment policy. But the moment that meant the most came during a surprise call from a young Army veteran in Texas. "Ms. Chen," she said, her voice shaking with emotion, "I just wanted to thank you. I found my dream job through VetBridge last month. But more than that, your story gave me permission to believe my military service was an asset, not a limitation. You showed me that being underestimated isn't a weakness, it's fuel." As I hung up the phone, I realized that sometimes the people who doubt you the most do you the greatest favor. They force you to prove not just that they're wrong, but that their limitations don't have to become yours. My family had investigated me expecting to find failure. Instead, they discovered that military veterans don't need rescue. We need recognition. And sometimes, the best way to get that recognition is to build something so undeniably successful that even the skeptics become believers. If this story resonated with you, or if you've ever felt underestimated by the people who should support you most, hit that subscribe button. Share your own stories of turning doubt into determination in the comments below. Because everyone deserves to know that being different isn't being less than, it's being exactly what the world needs.